all right, everybody. Come on in, come on in. Thank you all so much for being here. Welcome back to your 30-day Elegance Boot Camp. I am Maggie. You may know me as Maggie, the substitute teacher. I am all about food and femininity. Lucy and I are the founders of the Finishing School for the Modern Woman, a privately taught 8-week class. Registration is open. You all can find out more about all of it at teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. But we love to give back, and that's what we're doing now by sharing with you all from Woman of Elegance 30-day guide, and we are up to day 7. Lucy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lucy. You also know me by Luke Casely, and I have a small channel. I talk about mostly Spanish, basic and more advanced Spanish at times, and sometimes I sprinkle in some cultural topics about femininity and things that are making an impact in our daily lives when it comes to femininity, being a wife, being in a relationship, and so forth.
Absolutely. So we are thrilled to be teaching you all from Vivienne's Ultimate Guide to Elegance, her 30-day guide. Her channel is Woman of Elegance. She is on all socials. I highly encourage you all check her out for more content. She has a digital download book of 30 things to start doing on your elegance journey. This book is linked in the description, and you can get your own copy at 20% off with the code ELEGANCE20. However, Lucy and I are so grateful. We have so many generous sponsors in the community, specifically Brandon Eljet, who has made this book available for all of our students, current and future, for free. So we are going to pick right up with day 7. And we are actually going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about communication. So let me see if I can give you all a very brief recap. So you'll have that. So the first section we wrapped up, we started when we were talking about all of the dress and grooming things. You all can see here what we've covered. It's on my channel. It's on Lucy's channel, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram. Now we're on day 7. We're going to start working on a new area for conversation and etiquette. And ladies, the way we speak does say a lot about us, and it can be part of your elegance or a little bit rough around the edges. So we're going to talk today about learning to listen, which is absolutely a skill and a very important one. All right, so let me go over to the book. I see you all coming in. Thank you all so much for being here. So this is Vivienne from Woman of Elegance. Again, her book is linked in the description, and you all can get your copy. We are up to day 7. All right. Conversation etiquette. All right. So ladies, we need to learn how to listen. So let's go through these point by point as we've been doing. And then Lucy and I will give you all tips from our personal experience. What does Vivienne say? Listen attentively to the person you're talking to. Give them your full attention as they talk. Not only should you hear their words, process what they say and make it a duty to grasp the point they're trying to make. Okay, ladies, that was a lot, so let's unpack this. A proper conversation, I would say, is almost like a lost art now because of multiple reasons. I think part of the reason we are fast paced. Also, there's so many distractions. You all know we have these devices, the way we communicate shorthand. It doesn't really lend itself to having a simple conversation. And I think that's how so many relationships begin, even work and family relationships, just being able to connect. So, number one, giving them your full attention. And I always say in my private classes, and I do coaching outside of this, if it's not a good time or you're unable to give that attention, you can say that and then say when would be a good time. So, if you're cooking or cleaning or a little bit distracted with the kids, just say, I'm so sorry. I want to make sure I listen to everything that you're saying. Could you give me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or whatnot? Make sure you're listening to understand, because a lot of times we listen and we're not really listening to what they're saying. We're actually thinking about how we want to respond, which means we're not really listening. So, really try to take time to process. What would you say, Lucy?
Absolutely agree. And it has to do with active, making sure that you're actively listening, that you're paying attention to the person, looking at them, not only their eye contact, but also their body language, because also you listen to those nonverbal cues. And that's how you start understanding um, what that person is saying without even saying it. So I think that paying attention to everything and making the time to listen to that person is really important. And it goes back to what we talk in our school. It's about being considerate to others. It's not always about you. It's about the other person as well.
Yes, I love that. I love what Lucy said about the body language, ladies. I mean, in the work that I do, but even in just regular communication, you want to listen to what's being said and then also listen to what's not being said. And you're only going to pick up on those nonverbal cues if you're actually paying attention. Are they leaning in? Are they asking questions, or are they distracted? Are they kind of all over the place? Um, if you don't understand something, it's okay to say, I don't understand. Could you please, give me an example? Or could you please rephrase that? But, with those simple manners, when you're asking someone to repeat themselves, or if they're talking and you were distracted, you didn't say, you weren't actually listening, say that, apologize. Stop what you're doing, show respect for the time they're speaking to you, especially when you're talking to men, because men don't talk on and on and on like we women do. A lot of men, especially masculine men, are men of few words because they're doers and not talkers. And so it's actually quite disrespectful if you don't pay attention. So make sure you give them attention. What does Lisa say? Taking in more than the words being spoken. Absolutely, ladies. You can pick up. And those are those soft skills that we like to develop. And usually, as women, we are a little bit more attentive and pick up on those nuances. And the rhythms and the patterns. The late, great Kevin Samuels always said that we need to study our men so you can tell when things are off. What would you say, Lucy?
Agree. And again, men are not the ones that will want to hear a story from the beginning of time to end. They want to hear what happened, how can I solve it? That's it. You don't have to, because, and it's funny because, as the introvert, I watch a lot. And I remember watching, I used to work for a nonprofit, and I was watching a conversation between the director of event planning with the CFO. So the CFO was very logical, very, very direct, and the lady was going on and on and on. And I'm just watching, and you could tell that it was taking everything of him to say, get to the point. And that we are completely different. Women are a little more descriptive and more exhaustive on the things and on the emotions and the concepts that we want to share, whereas men, okay, tell me this, how can I get to from A to Z in the shortest way.
I love that, ladies. We need to do a better job about reading the room. And I talk about this in some private classes that I have. But what I've learned is that men are listening for a problem to solve. So when you're all over the place with word salad, it's very hard for them to kind of land that plane because they're thinking, okay, what do you want me to do? And you may not be asking them to do anything. And that I've learned to say, okay, I'm just sharing. There's no action here. But also a thing that you can do because we love to give you all some tangible tips here. Start with the request and then let them ask for extra context if needed. I need to make a decision. Should I go left or right? This is what I'm thinking. I want to know what you think. And then tell the story about your day and your breakfast or whatnot, if that's even important. But try to boil it down to the question. And it is a skill, and it's going to be difficult if you've just been used to blah, 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 talking to women all the time. You really need to change up your conversation when speaking with men. All right, let's see what else Vivienne says here. Try not to interrupt or cut in when someone is talking to you. Allow them to finish talking, as this is a skill not many people can master. This is a huge one, and this is what Vivienne has for day 7. Ladies, I see this, and I don't know if it's just a sign of the times, but interrupting, and a lot of us remember the late great Kevin Samuels. If there was one thing you were not going to do, it was going to overtalk him. And if you listen to men speak, when they are making their point, their voices are already deeper and fuller and louder. And we just can't compete in that area. And I don't think we should. One of the things that I've done, I'm very intentional, and you all even see it in the way that I run my streams. I allow people to finish. It's just a sign of respect. And then it helps you to listen too, because you're not just cutting in with what you want to say, you're actually listening to them. And the conversation should be that type of a dance where the comments from both sides should complement. If you just want to get it all off your chest, I guess you could go to a therapist for that. But especially if you're trying to build a connection, you want to make sure everybody is seen and heard. What would you say to that, Lucy?
Exactly. And again, it goes back to being considerate to the other person, because talking over a person, that cuts down the thought process for that other person, and it creates more confusion instead of just sitting listening to what the points that they have to make, and not being in a conversation thinking that you're going to win. It's not a competition, it's a discussion.
Absolutely. So that's what Vivian had for day 7. I'd love to know what you all think in the chat, and I will give you a couple of examples from some consults that I've done. Of course, all of the names will remain anonymous, but I do consults with women, and especially us professional women who think that we know everything, and we may know everything in our field of business. It doesn't translate the same in a relationship. And there's a young lady that I'm consulting with, and I've had to give her this direct feedback. And she was actually filmed on an interview, and she just kept over talking the man that she was talking to. I had her rewatch herself, and I pointed it out. And her response to me was, I just hate to wait, just get over it already. And I was like, well, that's an option, but that's not going to be successful in a relationship, especially with the caliber of man that you want. And I know the man that she was talking to in this interview, and I saw him months later at an event, and he actually brought up, unprompted, he was like, yeah, you remember that lady that was on that interview when I was talking to her? I mean, she just kept interrupting me. And my heart just sank, because I was like, oh, we want to be remembered for our good qualities, ladies. We don't want to be remembered for the faux pas that we make. And look, it happens. This whole series is about bringing awareness at a basic level. Sometimes you may think, well, this is just who I am. This is just how I talk. I've had to learn to slow down and really get to the point. So if you're here, we believe that you want to refine yourself and you want to be the best version of yourself. But yes, men, remember it. And we've gotten some feedback from some sponsors that we need to really stress the conversation etiquette, because, and I quote, I've been told it's really hard to talk to women today. And ladies, it shouldn't be that way. We should be the easy ones to talk to, right? We should make it a safe place for them, if they choose to share with us. What would you say, Lucy?
And again, it goes back to we are usually the receivers. We're the ones who receive the information. Yeah, we can share some of the information, but it's okay to, if a man is talking to you, listen, because they're not talkers. So it's got to be something important, and allow them to share that information with you. And it's also a sign of respect for them.
Yes, and that respect is so huge. I see Jimmy H says sometimes, I'm not sure the context, so clarify if you would like. Aaron Laura says, my best friend and I cut each other off a lot when it's a passionate conversation, but reach no conclusion anytime soon because none of us finishes a point. Shaking my head. But I love this awareness. And ladies, look, we all have girl time. Oh, sit down. I can't wait to tell you everything. I'm the same way, but I recognize that that does not translate. What we cannot treat men like they're one of our girlfriends. They are not. Another tip that I'll give you all that I've learned, and sometimes if I'm speaking or I want to speak, it's a little bit of that discipline and a little bit of that self control. Sometimes I'm like, I just want to get it out, but I force myself to listen. And then I'm like, you know what? That's actually really insightful. But if I had just blurted out what I wanted to say, I wouldn't have heard that point. Another thing I do when a man is speaking, I stop speaking. It doesn't matter to me if I was in mid sentence. Now, here's the thing, some of you all may say, well, we're both equal. Doesn't it go the same way? Ladies, you can get more with what? Honey than vinegar. So, yeah, you could argue back and try to shout somebody down. That's an option. I allow people to choose what works for them. But what I found, and Lucy has talked about this even in professional environments, when you're quiet and you wait, people will realize, oh, please, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Or, what would you like to say? And then that's your opportunity. It's difficult, but it's a great exercise in discipline and self control. So practice that, the thought that you had. If it's going to evaporate out, maybe write it down, maybe have a notepad with you. And that's another thing I tell ladies in my consults, especially those of us that like to talk. Write down your points and stick to the points at the beginning of the conversation. And then if you have time to get through all that other stuff, if he's interested, that's fine. But really try to be clear and concise. What would you say, Lucy?
Yes, and part of that active listening is also being able to, at the end of the conversation, especially when it's a challenging or it's a crucial or difficult conversation, to be able to paraphrase what the main point that the other person is telling you is really important, because again, it goes back to, they know that you're listening. They know that you're showing respect because you're trying to understand where they're coming from by paraphrasing or summarizing the whatever the issue is, to them, and it shows that you care.
I really love that. Yeah, I see Lisa says asking others about themselves in casual conversation. We all know people who only talk about themselves. Y'all, we've all been there at the cocktail party or whatever it is, and it's just that person you just dread being left alone with them because they're just going to go on and on. And here's something you can do. Like, I will allow people to just continue to go on and on. And, I'm an extrovert and I have things I want to say, but I allow people to come to their own conclusion because a lot of times people just aren't aware. And then sometimes they're like, oh my goodness, I could go on for all day about this. Yeah, I see you're really passionate about that. What does Tara say? Active listening is not my strong suit. I'm working on making my husband feel like I care about what he's saying, not just entertaining a conversation to talk to myself or make a point. This is a huge one, ladies. Men and everybody can tell when you're genuinely listening or if you're just like, yeah, and you're just kind of there. And you all remember a time when you were talking to someone and they really took the time to listen to what you had to say. You know how that made you feel. You know how special that made you believe that your words or your thoughts or your fears were. And of course, you adjust. Maybe you're in a relationship with someone who is very verbose, but more often than not, we women talk a lot more than our men. What would you say, Lucy?
I agree. And it's interesting because the more you listen to people and those that come to you with an issue, you listen, you ask the questions, and then they will feel that you solved their problem without even saying anything about solving the problem. They, on their own, solve it, but they think that by talking to you, you have allowed them to, for whatever reason, solve their own problems. So I think that listening is kind of like therapy to them, to some people. They talk to you, they come to you, you listen, and it's got to be at the proper time because at work, I don't want a person to talk to me about their issues from work, from home at work, because again, work is work, home is a different thing. So again, you got to pick the appropriate timing, the appropriate situation. Venue and so forth. But the more you listen, the more people will appreciate you for saying, she listened to me and she provided some good advice, some good guidance. And even if you didn't, they come to their own conclusion, but they will always remember how good of a listener you were.
And that's a beautiful compliment and a skill that doesn't age. You can be a good listener. I think, in relationships, we women, I think that's such an honor to be a confidant. A man is so guarded most of the time if you make him feel like he can really, you know, not that he's going to open up and share his deep, dark secrets, but, actually share what's on his mind with no judgment and just being listened to. I love that. One last thing that I'll say, I love that Lucy said about, summarizing the thoughts or the questions. Ladies, we have to do a better job about answering questions directly. This is a huge pet peeve for men. They are information gatherers because they're trying to get to a decision and usually solve a problem. So, if the question is a yes or no question, give a yes or no answer. You may have your reasons why, and that's fine. You can get to that, but really try to practice and say, yes, and then the it depends or one time at band camp and all the storytelling or not, you can almost see their blood boil because they're just like, I just want to know if you've eaten dinner or not. Well, I'm kind of on this thing and I'm kind of fasting, but I really could eat something. This is my issue, but I really could eat something. I don't know. What do you want to do? Ladies, don't do that. It just shows a little bit of scatterbrain with respect. And as an elegant woman, as a refined woman, as a mature woman or a woman that's maturing, you want to make sure your thoughts come out of your mouth concisely. One of the things I've had to work on, I used to speak as I was thinking and just kind of ramble on and then try to come to a point. Now I slow myself down and I think before I speak. So my words actually carry more weight and they're thoughtful. So yeah, conversation is a huge part of it. And it is such a, I would say like a secret weapon because it's one of those things that you don't see, when you enter a space or when you enter a room, right? Of course, people see the physical and it's like, ooh, who's that? But when you can have a conversation and you leave someone kind of feeling seen and heard and important, and it's almost like, man, she was so easy to talk to or had such great conversation. That is something that lingers. What would you say, Lucy?
I agree. Lisa's comment. My parents always told me if you give people a chance to talk, they will probably tell you more than they want you to know. It was a great tip when I was dating. Exactly. Allow people to tell you what's in them, and try to keep from judging what they're telling you. Just open it up as he's telling you some good information, and that's how it is. Another thing on the part of active listening is just not to try to force your opinions or your points of views on the other person, because then it becomes a debate. You want a nice, good flowing conversation, And if they start talking about some things that are a little different, different views, you can say, "Oh, that's a great perspective, excellent, a good point of view. I never thought about that." So just to allow them to speak a little more about, what they might be passionate about.
I love that. And one other tip I will give you, ladies, when, today we're talking about learning to listen. So, not only listening to the words, but really taking it in. And, like Vivienne said, processing the caliber of men that we want, that we love, that we respect. They're not going to pull any punches. They're going to say what they mean and they mean what they say. And I'll share with you all something else that I picked up in my consults. If a man says, "Yeah, I'm not really interested in a relationship right now," believe him. So don't just let it blow past you. It doesn't make him a bad person, and it doesn't make you a bad person, for saying something like, "I hear you loud and clear. Thank you so much for telling me that. I'm dating with the intention for marriage. I've always seen myself as a wife and a mother. So I really do wish you all of the best." It doesn't have to be ugly. You could absolutely exit with grace. Or, if he tells you whatever it is, ladies, listen to them. A lot of times we find ourselves in these situations and the men never lied. They were upfront in the beginning, and you just thought whatever you wanted to think. And so that's something that, I'm noticing a lot. And you can, if you decide to continue on for whatever reasons, then you understood what it was from the beginning because you're not going to change them. So I think if we slow down and we listen to what men say, and not just men, but people in conversations. I mean, we've seen that in the chat. They're going to say what's really, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. So it really can be a beautiful skill, and you can learn valuable information that can help you make informed decisions. What would you say, Lucy?
And going back to men, time for them is really the essence. Don't waste their time by telling bringing in things about 20 years past, especially when you have a challenging conversation or a fight. Don't bring in things that happened 20 years past because, again, you can't go back into the past. You can't go back 20 years. It happened. He can't fix it. Just stay within the topic and within the day and within the decade, maybe, because I know that some women, my sister is one of those. When she fights, she brings everything that happened when she was a child, and it's like, oh my God, we can't really fix that. Okay, that you bring it up, but what am I gonna do with that information? So with men, just it makes no sense to them to be bringing something that they cannot fix.
I love that. Yes, ladies, I'm telling you, that's one of the things that I'm sure if we ask the men in the chat, they're just like, why are we doing that? It doesn't matter. Stick to the topic at hand. I love what Lisa said here about amen. Debates aren't welcome at social events. And ladies, look, we can end on this. The holidays are coming up, whether you're working or you're going to be with family, there's always going to be an opportunity to talk to someone that that you don't know, and build a relationship or make a memory. Just know that there are some topics, and we talked about this, I think, in the finishing school, but there are just some topics that are just better had in your private circles of your friend groups that you know. Of course, you can talk about, the weather, but I'll give you all some tips. Of course, you want to avoid politics and religion. Even right now, certain things that are going on in the world, like wars or during the pandemic, people feel strongly about, how you protect yourself or whatnot. Those topics can just lead to an awkward situation, and you don't want to do that. So what you can do, I'll give you all two tips. What you can do is just think ahead of time the topics that you do feel comfortable talking about. It could be, travel. It could be, y'all know I love food. So do you have any vacations planned or anywhere you've been recently? um, any new recipes that you've tried or any new restaurants that you've tried. just try to think about what would bring you all together, anything that you have in common. If something does get a little testy, you can go ahead and prepare with something like, well, it seems like you're really passionate about this subject. Unfortunately, I'm not as informed about fill in the blank. So that's a conversation for another time. You can have those responses in your back pocket so that you can exit with grace and then change the subject and say, so do you have any trips coming up when the weather gets warm? So you want to just make sure you don't get caught back on your heels. You want to listen, but you don't want to get painted into a corner, and don't be that person at the event that now is my time. I got a captive audience, so y'all are going to hear what I think about all night long. What would you say, Lucy?
I agree. And that person that wants to have that captive audience is probably taking a chance that they're not going to be invited to the next event. Because again, you want a party to be something light and fun. And when you bring somebody that throws that wet blanket on top on the whole thing, it's like, okay, so do we want that person around the next time? No, you're gonna be persona non grata on the next party.
Absolutely. So we have Brandon Eljet. You all know him and love him. He says, hello, Maggie and Lucy. Peace and salutations from London. So it is very late or very early for you across the pond. And he's asking you all to support us. You all do support us. We are here for you. So as we wrap up with day 7, hopefully this elegance boot camp, you all are learning. And per Vivienne's book, if you start incorporating these things, and it's a lot, we're just 1 week in, if you start incorporating these things on your elegance journey, you will start to notice not only are you improving, but you'll have that awareness around people with people around you. And you're kind of like, wow, okay, that was a bit much. And you'll just start to see how you'll slowly get more refined. And of course, Brandon, you know how much we love and appreciate you for providing the books for our students. All right. So, Lucy, would you have anything to say as we close out?
With what you said on the last portion that you said, I agree, and also you might start watching that your sets of friends are going to start changing because you're going to probably, I mean, I read somewhere that you are the CEO of your own life. You can demote, you can promote, and you can do something with those friends that are either going with your program or not, or going in a different way. So that's where your group of friends start change, and you may see people coming in to you because your aura just calls them to you, and it's gonna be changing. It's gonna be changing. So I think that it's the more you practice, you don't have to take this all of these 7 days all together, but little by little you'll start seeing the difference.
I love that. And we are here to support you on your journey. You all can find more resources at teachablemomentswithmaggie.com. Please share this series with any ladies who are interested in refining. We love to give back. So for November 1 through November 30, we are here. We do a 30-minute stream every night with a new topic from Vivienne's book. If you are interested in private group coaching, the Finishing School for the Modern Woman registration is open now. Our next course will be January 6th. So ladies, maybe you put that on your holiday wish list. It is an 8-week Saturday school. We've got some students in the chat. We just wrapped up our first session. We have guest speakers. You have workbooks. You have all kinds of resources if you really want to do a deep dive privately offline. So we will be back tomorrow. Let's see. We have one last comment from Technological Chaos. Is the conversation should only go as deep as how deep the relationship is. Learning first and talking later is severely underrated at this age. Yeah, I love that. And, ladies, I think we'll get into this. I said a little bit yesterday. Part of being an elegant woman, there's a little bit of mystery to an elegant woman, which means you don't vomit everything that you ever done or ever thought. You have to keep a few things to yourself. and then let people slowly, oh, I didn't know that. That's fascinating. So yes, tomorrow we have a 1 hour time change. So we will be streaming tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern, which will be 5 p.m. Central as we continue on through Vivienne's book. You can find this on my channel or Lucy's channel. So please share and we will see you all tomorrow. Oh, what does Kim K say? I know you're not supposed to overtalk your man, but what do you do when he interrupts you when you try to speak? I stay silent. And then he'll say, babe, go ahead. That's what I do. Lisa says, thank you, ladies. These conversations are wonderful. Lucy, would you say anything different, or how do you handle when your man or anyone interrupts you?
That's exactly it. Stay silent. Because then silence speaks much louder than you trying to overtalk him. Just stay silent. And then he'll start. It's a practice. It's gonna take it's gonna take every morsel of your body not to talk back, but practice it. Just take a deep breath and stay silent. He will start noticing the change.
Yes. So you all can go back when Mufasa Thane was here. I think on day 2, I've clipped some of those up. We let him have the floor until he was done. That's what I do. All right. Lisa says, thank you. These conversations are wonderful. Okay. I'm so glad it's helpful for you all. We will see you all back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll have it scheduled so you can just turn on your notifications and we will continue on our elegance journey. Until then, I hope everybody has a good night.
Adios.